So on one hand, my sinuses are still really bothering me, and we'll see how well I can talk. On the other hand, I am recording this directly after watching Louis Rossman's latest rant video, which is the two things that I've seen: Louis and the BWE rant, and then I glanced through an article on Reddit that kind of ties in here, just in another side. And I'm going to be talking a little on the state of physical media and why I collect it and archive it, and kind of where it's heading and also being attacked. And it's not all physical, it is all forms of physical media that's attacked, and I'll be discussing some things in here that aren't so child friendly, so warning on that. So obviously the last several years, physical media has been under attack by companies who don't like that they make a DVD or make a book, sell it, and then they never see any profit from that again. So if you print 1 million DVDs of something and you sell those million, every time those million are sold a second time, you don't see a profit from it. And going back to when VHS was a thing, like there were lawsuits in the 70s to make it illegal to put recording ability in a VCR. VHS and Betamax, when they hit the commercial market as a video cassette recorder, MPAA, I don't remember if it was even the MPAA at that point, but the studios, the rights holders, sued so fast because it should be illegal for consumers to be able to record things from their TV. And one side of this was, but then we can't sell it to them. The other side was that there are several programs from the early days of television that there is no known copy of, simply because either the studios didn't record them as they made them in the case of live shows, or they just recorded over the master tapes because it was cheaper than just storing them and buying new tapes. So there is, like, lost media is a legit thing. But they did not like the idea of you being able to record a movie and watch it again later. And so physical media has really been under attack from the beginning. And one thing that I've always found interesting is I lived through the Napster days. I never understood Napster. I never really cared for Napster. With my 33.6K internet connection, downloading one MP3 would take an hour or more. And that was assuming that I got the full 4 kilobytes per second download rate, which in the early days of peer-to-peer, with that kind of speed, you weren't ever going to get your full download rate. So you could sit there for 2 hours and not even download a megabyte. So I never really had any interest in it whatsoever. What I did, and nobody ever cared about and really blew my mind, as they were showing on national news. So this guy, it's this 16-year-old with all these burned CDs. Where did you get? Oh, I downloaded for. There's over 500 albums here. You don't think that's illegal? You don't think that's criminal? You need to spend the rest of your life in jail. What apparently was legal, because nobody ever cared about it, was going to the library, checking out CDs, taking them home, ripping them, burning them to a CD. Nobody ever cared. And even with some research that I have done, it's not technically illegal to rip CDs to MP3. So they went after all these people, making examples out of them with these ridiculous lawsuits for the illegality of sharing MP3 files, when you could just go to the library and rip it yourself. And from everything that I was ever able to gather from that point, the implication was that it is perfectly 100% legal as long as you don't give that to somebody else. That is how ridiculous this has been, literally, for 30 years. Cassettes were also, they challenged cassette tapes in court, because if you can record music off the radio, you don't need to go buy the cassette tape. Mixtapes, they hated mixtapes, because if you record a mixtape off the radio, that's maybe 15 CDs that you're not buying. That's a lot of money. They didn't like it. And that's one of the reasons that newer VCRs towards the end of their run did not have record heads. It was cheaper, and they didn't have to worry about somebody trying to go after them or anything. That's why a lot of the VHS DVD players, which couldn't record from DVD anyway, didn't even have the ability to record tapes. But now at this point in time, the war against physical media has changed. Companies and people are against physical media because of cancel culture. That is a big driving force. And we have even seen it does not take a very deep dive into forum or Reddit posts to find somebody that says, yeah, I watched this show on Disney Plus yesterday, and today this is missing, this is missing, this is missing, because somebody found something offensive and they just go and seamlessly edit it. And with digital media, streaming media, at any given point, even if you pay for it, a copyright holder can revoke their copyright, and now it's gone. And they just send you a little note, like with Sony and Warner Brothers, which I still think that was a test. I don't think that was actually what people thought it was. I think that was a test to see how much they could get away with. Because usually, when something gets removed from the store, it stays in your download history and you can continue to download it and continue to watch it when you have it downloaded. Sony and WB went for broke. And I really believe that was more of a test to see if they could get away with it, which of course it did not fly whatsoever. Because purchase means you can... See, purchase is an indefinite rental at this point. And in fairness, this is one of the reasons that I've always liked Xbox more than PlayStation, because if you purchased an original Xbox game through the Xbox 360 online storefront, you can still play that on your series. And no, Xbox has not been really great for a long time. They have gone downhill a lot. The series is not a super stable console because of the software. Very much like a PC, if you don't shut it down and restart it every once in a while, it's going to really struggle. And I have had a lot of issues, and now the kids just play Roblox on it, and I don't really worry about much myself. I'm usually playing Switch or PS5 if I'm even having time to really play much of anything, which I've been too busy to lately. So we see, like, Earthbound was not on the Wii or Wii U Virtual Console because the Red Cross blocked Nintendo, even though Nintendo did not have a license with the Red Cross. Maybe they did. I don't remember how it was. But the Red Cross will not let anybody use a white box with a Red Cross for any reason under any circumstances. Back in the 90s, that was the universal symbol for Health Pack. So almost no Super Nintendo Genesis era game that you can find digital that used that kind of a thing is still the way it was. This includes, I'm pretty sure, Zombies Ate My Neighbors and a bunch of other things. If they had, like, the first aid kit represented a health pack, they have had to remove it. And I have not played all of them. There may have been some, but like the Red Cross goes after that pretty hard. It does not go over well. So you have cancel culture, you have making you buy or rent the same thing over and over and over again, because if I buy a 4K copy of Spaceballs and watch it 50 times, the studios hate that because they got paid once. They would rather make me pay $3 each time I want to watch it than have me pay $40 for a 4K Blu-ray and watch it however much I want. That is the problem. I've not done a lot of research into it, but I'm like right now I don't plan to get a Switch 2. I may not. That's a lot easier to say now than when one is sitting in front of me. But things that I'm concerned about that are the virtual game cards, which I also think is kind of being a little bit of a test. And Nintendo's been a little ambiguous on it, and until it actually gets into the wild, we're not going to really know exactly what we're dealing with. So the concept between virtual game cards, that was not fun, but I hacked it up, so we should be good. So the concept of virtual game cards is it's buying a physical game virtually. And all it says is you can share it between multiple consoles. Well, the way that they word that worries me, because in general, if I purchase a game from the eShop, as long as I am signed in with my Nintendo account, I can have that on multiple consoles. Same as with Xbox, PC, PlayStation. If I have two PS5s, you set one as your home, and as long as you're connected to the store and it verifies that you are you, then you can play it on both. But the way that Nintendo is wording it, to me, feels like they're wanting us to think, oh, I can give this to my buddy, so, we can both play this at the same time and he doesn't have to own it. But the way that they're wording it makes it sound like, oh, yeah, you have your Switch 2 and a Switch 2 Lite, or your bedroom Switch and your living room Switch. You just have to buy it once and you can share it between the consoles. That would be a step backwards, big time backwards. Well, we all have a lot of problems with Nintendo's policies and practices. They are still doing physical media. Most companies aren't going to sell $90 games. Let's just be real. A lot of companies don't even go to the full $70 on Xbox and PlayStation. And to date, only Tears of the Kingdom was $70 for the original Switch, and you can find that for $40 on eBay, used all day long. Did not work the way Nintendo wanted. The Switch, I know I can still mostly use offline. I am collecting for the Switch because they're cartridges and there's no disc reader to burn out. Right now, there's only two game consoles that I'm really collecting for, and that's NES and Switch. I have not had time or money to mess with the N64 I bought, so I'm not going to say I'm actively collecting or archiving for it. But cartridge-based consoles that are more easily repairable. The Switch is actually a fairly repairable console, especially with battery, and there's Tronics Fix and iFix. There's a ton of stuff out to maintain and repair your Switch. And while it's cheap, I want to try to get what I can, archive up what I can. So physical media is absolutely under attack from multiple angles. I'm also seeing a lot more editorials and stories on news sites about these 20 things are worthless junk that you need to throw away right now. And the feng shui people and the organization people are attacking it. This is worthless garbage. You're an awful person for having it. It's junk, blah, blah, blah. And I've seen a lot that have said encyclopedias are worthless. You should throw them away. Nobody should ever have an encyclopedia in their house in 2025. It is absolutely complete worthless. Except that is completely false. As somebody that collects encyclopedias, I can tell you they are far from worthless, and they absolutely have a shocking resale value. Especially if it's a Britannica. Everything that I have... No, I have one illustrated world, and then one world book and another world book that is coming. A Britannica set will run you $250 to $300 plus and shipping on top. And it's not much cheaper on like Marketplace. They are absolutely not valueless. Another good thing from a research perspective, like anybody can edit Wikipedia. Like you have no confirmation at any one given time of just how accurate Wiki is. And that's been the big problem with it. It's the free encyclopedia, but anybody can touch it and you never know 100% how accurate it is. So if I have something in the 69 World Book and then I look that up in the 75 World Book and see the differences, you can tell what was edited, what was changed. And through that, over the years, you can kind of tell patterns and then you can kind of extrapolate what the truth most likely is. Plus, it's still really fun to look through and look them up. And there's a lot of stuff that's taken out and changed and moved around over years and versions anyway. But we are absolutely seeing it attacked, and the people that prefer physical media are being attacked. And now that we are seeing DVDs and Blu-rays moving more from mainstream into a premium collector's market, that's helping a little bit, because people that are like, these are worthless, are now going, well, that's a premium collectible, that's your thing. It's a waste of money to me, but it's your thing. Helps a little bit. But there's just so many personal attacks from people who are realistically bots or paid accounts to push a narrative. You look at vinyl. Vinyl is ridiculously expensive, and it's a niche collector's market. A lot of people, I don't remember what I heard, what percentage it was, but I just heard somebody was saying like 20 or 30% of the people that collect vinyl don't even have a record player. Like, I collect vinyl and rarely listen to it, but I at least have a pretty decent Audio-Technica record player, so I can at any given time. Would love to get an actual 45 jukebox, but need to learn how to work on them first, because I would totally 100% do that. But it moves into that more of nostalgia collector's realm, and they can charge more for them, and they don't have to sell as many when they charge more. Books, we're seeing all the time where books are edited or removed. I don't remember who it was, if it was Audible or Amazon. I think Lewis did a video on it. I think it was Amazon. You can't download your ebooks anymore, so you can't download your ebooks, so if you don't have Wi-Fi, you can't read your ebooks. And it's, again, you paid for it, but we don't care. You don't meet our terms, so you can't use it. And that leads me into the not safe for children portion of the discussion, to where this starts to get really even more interesting, because books are making a comeback. Book sales are up, and to be flat out, it is because of smut. And it's the romance books, girl porn, girl smut, whatever you want to call it. It's the Colleen Hoover and Fourth Wing and stuff that you get in like normal big box stores that you can just go to Walmart and pick up. But if you actually open it and look at it, it's like unreal that they're actually just selling it in the open like that. Like, I was looking, like, have always loved to take those books, read the back cover in like a Sunday monster truck announcer voice or the old wrestling announcer voice, because it's always so ridiculous. But, they talk about think of the children and protect the children, yet you have those books just sitting there, not shrink wrapped and out in a family big box store. So there's definitely double standard there. But they have really been pushing the resurgence of books, and it's all over TikTok about the joking about the ladies and their smutty romance books, but that's driving the sale of physical books. And, at the end of the day, the numbers show, oh, books are making a comeback. They're selling well. Okay. Now, I just read an article, how legit, I don't know, and kind of skimmed through a little bit to get the gist of it, because until I actually see something a little more concrete, but I know we're all headed this way, a Republican senator in Utah is creating a bill that would essentially block, nuke, destroy online porn. And probably, I would say at this point, close to half the country has already pretty much nuked that industry anyway, because they have, like here in Indiana, we're one of them, which is not a surprise, and none of our local stations have even reported it. Like none of our local news channels even reported at all when this went into place. So I still find that kind of interesting, but Indiana and the other states have the way that they have set the law for age verification requirements is such that the technology does not exist to meet the age verification requirements that these states have implemented. So it is essentially outright banning online porn in the state because the technology does not exist or the sites refuse to implement them, depending on which side you want to listen to allow for them to meet the state requirements. So they just outright block the entire state. And now that is being talked about on more of a national level, and it's, again, protect the children. The internet's not regulated by the FCC. Never has been. And when we talk about collecting physical media, preserving things, this is the beginning of the worst case scenario, to where we are very heavily regulated and what we have access to is very heavily controlled. And regardless of whether you are pro-porn, anti-porn, that does not matter. What matters is somebody is controlling what you have access to. Because if the government can block you from Pornhub based off your IP address, then they can do the same thing from MSN, Fox News, CNBC, anything else that they want. That's where the danger is. And the downside, it's like the adult industry has always been the one to really push new technology. They were the first VHS tapes, first DVD, first Blu-ray, first to stream, first to really lock down on streaming. Like all of that, the adult industry pioneered. And then the mainstream stuff came after when it was a little more stable. And now working that way with more of the censorship, because realistically, if you're of legal age in your state, there should be no reason why the government says you can't view this. We're really headed towards more regulation on the internet, and that's where your physical media comes in. And I've been saying for a long time, if there's something that you truly value and enjoy, buy it physical while you can. One of my future goals for the library is to have it completely 100% offline. Nothing in the library requires an internet connection whatsoever to be able to use. The video games, the movies, the catalog, everything completely offline. No reliance on an outside connection whatsoever. Internal network, fine. External network, no. And one of the challenges with that, like if I posted on Reddit, hey, I'm building a catalog for my library using Microsoft Word and peer-to-peer, I would get absolutely annihilated. Called names, screamed at, maybe even probably have some people try to ban me off of Reddit and then attack me on YouTube because what idiot, yada, yada, yada. You need a server and you need IIS and you need yada, yada, yada. That does not do what I want it to do. I want to be able to completely pull the internet plug and still have my catalog function. Really, what I want is to set up a Dynix system, which is the first generation catalog that people of my age used in the late 80s to early 2000s. That's just the monochrome in 1 through 6, search your author, search title, that basically a DOS database style. And those were terminals that went back to a central server in the library. And from what I have found, like, no copies exist anywhere. There are no surviving systems. There's really not even very many. I found like a few videos on YouTube that even show it. And I've not had any luck whatsoever trying to find some DOS-based database software to be able to use. So, that is what it is. But the catalog that I am building, that I am getting closer to being ready to demo, requires no outside connection. I can throw it on a completely isolated computer, which I plan to use a Windows XP computer for nostalgia. I think it's going to be too much for a Windows 98 machine, but I should be able to throw it on an XP computer. We're going to be doing some testing here pretty soon. I'm not super far away from being to that point yet. But, where is physical media in 2025? Well, it's making a comeback, but it's also under attack. And while it's being made out to be a younger generation versus older generation, or a Republican control versus anything else, realistically, all of the politicians are together on it because it's money in their pockets. And it's less, when you're a public figure, the more of you that can be edited at a moment's notice to stop a controversy, the more you are in favor of it. People don't understand, why do you collect wrestling DVDs? Nobody cares about wrestling DVDs. You have the WWE Network, you have YouTube, you don't need it. The only way that you will find Hulk Hogan's entrance with Voodoo Child is on DVD, because WWE had the license in perpetuity when those DVDs were printed, and then they lost the license, and you will not find that entrance anywhere. And if you upload that entrance to YouTube, the Hendricks family will strike you. They are very, very strong in defending that. There are next to nothing that you can find. And that's, again, a great example of physical media versus copyright. Because the copyright holder can say, hey, you owe us another X million dollars to continue to use that. And if they don't want to pay it, then they edit the music out and keep going. And one last thing that I want to touch on real quick. Don't get the idea of, I'm just going to start burning CDs. You need to be very careful with that, because I think all the last of the quality CD and DVD blank media manufacturers have been purchased, and it's all low quality China goods now. There are gold archival discs, and they're like $70 for 50. And that still assumes the burner doesn't mess up and all of that. So either buy pressed CDs, which some of them are very, very expensive, because collectible CDs have actually started to really go up. But I am getting into mini discs, and these are starting to get extremely popular. Why? Well, because mini discs are pretty well all of good quality. They're in floppy disk-like cartridges that you actually can't expose the right media of, so they are much less susceptible to damage than CDs. And these things are very, very close to being digital cassettes. You don't have to master them. You can, they're fluid, basically. So I can record 5 tracks on this. If I want to delete track 3, I can just pop the right protect tab, delete track 3. I can record another track and then move it from track 6 to track 3. All on disk. They're not authored, they're not mastered. The audio quality is not as good as CD, which is the biggest argument against them. They were more popular in Japan than they were over here, but MDs are actually making a pretty good comeback. And if you're in that community, like, you get it. The other thing, because those I record as one-to-one straight from whatever my source CD, computer, whatever, means that I listen to the entire album, which is something that I am awful about. I don't ever listen to an entire album. I will buy an album for one song, rip the entire album, and listen to that one song. So actually experiencing some new stuff, because some of my favorite tracks have actually just been found by accidentally hitting repeat on a playlist, or not repeat, shuffle on a playlist and finding something and getting it. That's how I find stuff. The other thing is that this gives me backups of some of the stuff that I've purchased on iTunes that is not available on CD or is ridiculously expensive on CD. And that gives me backup I don't have to worry about a 30-cent CDR getting scratched up or not wanting to play. Plus, that gives me some old tech to play with and maintain, which is still really cool. So I'm building a mini disc archive and having a lot of fun with it as I'm doing it. So for collecting, everything is pretty much custom. You see me mostly build a lot of custom stuff on here. If you're going to do books, always make sure, at some point I need to just do a video showing the comparison of the two. Do not buy bookcases from Walmart. Only buy the Room Essentials bookcases from Target. The reason is that the Walmart bookcases are not the same height on the top and bottom. Anything that you find now is going to have the fixed shelf in the middle. Walmart's bookcases are taller on the top than they are on the bottom. What this leads to is you end up with wasted space on the bottom because you don't have enough to fit normal size shelves in there. They're designed for 3 shelves on the top and 2 on the bottom. So if you have like normal height books, see, on the Target shelves, I get 2 normal shelves, and then I have a deep shelf for oversized books and binders. And then on the bottom, I actually add another shelf. And that gives me 3 shelves of normal sized books on the bottom. So I actually get 6 shelves out of one of these bookcases. Whereas with the Walmart bookcases, that's not an option. The other thing is that the Target bookcases have holes drilled all the way up. So if I wanted to add a shelf here on the Walmart case, I actually have to drill new holes, which means that I have to, by some miracle, get them kind of level. Whereas with the Target bookcases, the holes are pre-drilled all the way down so I can put the shelves wherever I want them. That is also a big complaint with the Walmart cases. For a while, the Walmart cases were 25. These are 24, but now they're all just still the 24-inch cases. So stuff like that is what's key for people that are trying to build out a collection to know. But the majority of people would not really even know to look for that. But that's the kind of stuff that's like, oh, that makes a big difference. Wish I'd have known that before the 5 Walmart cases I have in the basement that I'm now kind of figuring out what to do with, because it does not work for this. And there's no reason for me to store like anything bigger than binders on that shelf. And if I had a shelf that I needed to store something bigger on, then I can just move stuff around and do that. Like, I've got my vinyls on one of those shelves. And because that's on the fixed shelf, that's where you want to put your weight, because you have the fixed shelf and that can hold more without bowing than the other shelves. So Eventually, I want to do a little bit more with custom casework, but I also am awful at trying to build that stuff. I'm getting more into floating shelves right now just because of how dissatisfied I am with how my normal cases turn out. And I'd much rather um, do floating shelves. So, but these guys that I'm pointing at and not showing you, these are Atlantic. I've had two of the big tall ones, the 1040s, and then three of these. Both of the 1040s that I've had did not go together properly. And the top doesn't cam lock. It breaks when you try to cam lock it. And it's fine once you set it up and strap it to a wall, but if you ever want to move it, it's going to fall apart. Um, the third one of these, which is the reason that I started looking at floating shelves, because these guys are like $60 a piece. These are like $3. Those are junk. So, you know, we'll see. You know, there's the excuse. Well, this country for a long time has always had the kind of underlying heartbeat of the concerned moms of America type thing, that really believe everybody should live the way that they say you should live. And that disease has spread to the general population, and they're getting more and more power, and it's getting more and more interesting. So, yes, physical media is still alive. You know, my rules still apply. Be patient. Jump on something if you see it and you want it. Don't wait. You know, it's like, how do you find stuff? Well, the encyclopedia set that is coming, I picked up because I've got a couple volumes from that set and was looking at just finding like a partial set to kind of fill it in. And this person had a full set with a bunch of yearbooks at auction, $25, 6 days left. So I set out the 6 days, put a $25 bid on it, and won it. So yes, it was $50 to ship it, but that's pretty fair because I know shipping rates because I do this. People always say, why are you on eBay? You're not buying anything. No, I'm not buying anything. I will watch dozens of things just to get market trends. And if I see this thing, somebody throw a buy it now up for like 50% or more off of what I'm seeing in market trends, then I'll jump on it. That was something the ex always got mad at me about. You don't need to be spending money. I'm not spending money. I'm on eBay. I'm looking at things that I am looking for. When I understand what stuff is selling for, then I understand what's a deal and what's not. So when I know that these encyclopedias usually have buy it nows for 150 plus shipping, and this person made the mistake of putting it for auction, it's probably not going to sell. And as I've ranted before about perceived value on eBay and people saying, well, that's not what something is worth. Well, sometimes stuff's worth a little more than what you think it is or a little less than what you think it is. But the bottom line for me, if something is listed for $200 and that's the only one that's active on eBay and that's the only one that's been active in the last 6 months, that's worth $200 because I cannot just go buy it somewhere for cheaper. You can throw cheaper offers at that seller all you want. They're probably not going to take it. But if I am watching and I just happen to search, and, oh, somebody's got one for $50. Got it. Yep, cool. Got it. Just did that with a 2001 Upper Deck set. Usual, and it's got the Albert Nichiro rookies. General buy it nows are about 165 to 180. Somebody had one for 75, so I threw it on watch. And about a month and a half later, they dropped it to 60 and I grabbed it. Is it worth that? Well, it was to me. But now if you're looking for that set's worth $165 because that's the cheapest one that's on eBay. Don't know what to tell you. Patience, a little bit of random luck. I've been to the same Goodwill like 3 times in a week, and they've had no VHS, a ton of VHS, no VHS. Like you never know. Sometimes I think they throw if like a CD or something doesn't sell in like a week, they just throw it out. Yeah, I don't know. For cataloging, I use CLZ apps. They are not free, unfortunately, but they do sync to my phone for when I'm out in the wild. And then I build custom catalog for use in the house. I've looked for a long time to try to find something else. I did Excel spreadsheets for a long time, but even if I have the Excel spreadsheet saved onto my OneDrive and try to view it on my phone, it's just very, very cumbersome because it's a mobile and not a full desktop. But yeah, it's part of the fun of collecting this stuff. But as every day goes by, it is more preserving because it's interesting and frightening the direction that we're headed. So, thanks for listening to me ramble for 40 minutes. No, not as much fun as Lewis, but I'm much more reserved, especially when every last sinus is full to the brim. So, thanks for hanging out. We'll catch you next time.